Oh, come on, it can't be that bad. Well, okay then. What's up, gamers? The Shadow Bonnie Kid 446 here, and Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the movie, not the video game, the sequel to the smash hit that was Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the movie, not the, has finally released to some truly abysmal reviews. Like, really? I don't think any of us were expecting this. You know, it's not like the first movie was some critical darling or whatever, but really? 13? And now we gotta go through the spiel again. Critics can't be trusted. It's made for the fans. This person clearly just has an eye for Freddy Fazbear. Starts to roll in. We do this every year. But I digress. I was initially not planning on talking about Five Nights at Freddy's 2, at least not for a good while after release. Because if you recall in my initial review of the first one, or that hour-long breakdown I did later, I was not very fond of the first movie. Wasn't the worst horror film in the world, but it's hard not to think it completely towed the line, the dictionary definition of a PG-13 horror film. And despite some risen confidence after seeing creator Scott Cawthon claim he was taking criticism into account for the sequel, confidence that was shortly after shattered after the film's director said she doesn't give a shit what anyone other than the fans say. I wonder why. I went into the second film not really giving a shit one way or the other. Do I expect it to be good? Nope. Would it be nice if it were? Yep. Was it good? No, not at all. Not only was it not a good movie, not only was it a poor sequel, but it was somehow miles worse than the first. What happened here? The first wasn't this bad. And firstly, I'm sorry if you like this movie, but I can't see myself having really anything positive to say towards this film, other than praise the insanely talented people who designed and built these animatronics. They're without a doubt the highlight, very sad they barely do anything. But yeah, to anyone out there who wants to know if they should see this before I really get into it, let's lay it out simple. Do you like Fnaf? If no, not at all, what are you doing here? Go see Zootopia 2, I don't know. If yes, then you've probably already seen it and just want to know what I have to say. Thanks, man. But also, if you loved this movie and think I'm some asshole prick for what I'm about to say, then, well, you're right. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I too get some kind of dopamine rush from seeing references to things I like, or even just seeing such perfect recreations of the robots. I understand you just want to see an hour and a half of Chica, that's awesome. And its worst crime isn't even that it's bad, which it is. It's that it's boring. That's the worst of it, Fnaf 2. You're just a bore. First things first, this movie takes forever to get things off the grind. It hasn't been terribly long since the events of the first film. Things seem to be looking up for Mike Schmidt. He's got a new house, wants to get with Vanessa, and has a better relationship with his little sister Abby. But, oh no! Everyone has unresolved trauma! I hate when that happens! Abby wants to visit her friends again despite being pretty popular at school. Her biggest bully is her teacher. And Mike has promised to fix them with no intent to actually do so, leading Abby to set out and try do it herself. I definitely saw a lot of similarities between this and the Fnaf novels. I think it was the Twisted ones where the main character is also learning robotics, except she's like 20 and Abby is 2. They explicitly say that she's 11, her pointing out that she's not a kid anymore, yet they still write her to be the most oblivious, naive character ever. She completely ignores all the traumatic shit she went through during the second half of the last film, just wanting to see the animatronics again, and later deactivating the security system that locks the robots to the pizzeria, not realizing how this could very easily go wrong, especially considering what happened last time. They are in for a nightmare when writing the third movie, because they're actually gonna have to write Abby taking part and doing things and not just being fucking manipulated all the time. Nothing would happen in this movie if it weren't for her being so fucking stupid. There was also this hilarious scene where she proudly shows Mike her artwork and he's like, "Wow, Abby, this is really amazing. I'm in Hunger Games." While we see the fucking blobbiest art I've ever seen, had me dying. Whoever drew these props does not know the difference between how an 11-year-old draws and a 4-year-old. Turns out Abby was, unsurprisingly, being tricked to deactivate the system by the marionette. This puppet, which is possessed by a little girl who was murdered by William Afton, who was in the movie for like 5 minutes total, and it's always through a flashback or dream sequence. Hooray! The marionette later possesses the body of a girl who was filming inside the pizzeria for a ghost show, and later Abby for a brief moment, which was hilarious. But I have no idea what the point in it switching bodies at all is. What is the benefit to it switching? Well, she had to ditch her body at the pizzeria and hide inside Chica's to get to Abby's house and possess her. But let's run that back. Get inside Chica, don't clip that. She's somehow better disguised walking around as a giant animatronic bird than a girl with face paint. It's because her soul is tied to the pizzeria, but the robots have a fucking off switch for that shit, so, How the marionette even knows Abby exists to reach out to her in the first place, I don't know either. Since Abby got the Faz Talker communicator at the pizzeria from the first movie, you know, you can say some of this is nitpicking, but I don't know, at a certain point you're just left with a pile of freshly picked nits. Wait, what is a nit? Wait, it's like a lice thing? Ew, gross. Ugh, get out of here. Meanwhile, Vanessa is dealing with the general trauma that comes with being an Afton. Through a dream sequence, we get the idea that William was a very abusive father, and expected her to follow in his footsteps, but, nothing really major comes with that. Nothing I can't talk about without first mentioning Michael Afton. It's the character who every single human on the planet looked at and said, no, yeah, that's Michael Afton. He's luring people to the original Freddy's attraction to kill them. And that is literally the only time we see him in the entire movie until he randomly walks into Mike's house at the end like, haha, yep, it was all me. Michael Afton, William Afton's son, Vanessa's brother, Mike Schmidt, Abby Schmidt, Freddy Bunny Chica. None of these story beats have any time to build up. There's way too much going on and the movie just does not have the time to explore any of it fully, because it takes forever to take off. It wastes so much time introducing all this stuff, only for Scott to realize he's halfway into the script and still needs to cover, oh, you know, this, and so just scrambles to fit it all in here. The Five Nights at Freddy's games originally separated things a tad between entries. Fnaf 2 wasn't a direct follow-up to 1, and 3 wasn't a direct follow-up to 2. Of course, through theories and later games, people have landed on a mostly agreed upon progression of events, but again, that was all through later entries and books and shit. Aside from an Easter egg here or there, the games were fairly separate from one another, at least up until Sister Location, but it allowed for each of them to have their own unique atmosphere. You know, I can show you this color palette and you can tell me exactly what FNAF game that is, or this one. But because this film spends so long feeling like an extended epilogue of the first, it loses the chance to truly embrace being about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Which sucks because by that second half, once they've introduced the toy animatronics and the Wizards, and we actually see Mike, you know, playing Five Nights at Freddy's, it gets a little fun. It's only for a brief moment, but I don't know, I was like, yeah, you know, that's what we've been waiting for. Now, I'm not mad at the movie for building off the first, that would be ridiculous. But it wastes so much time with it, not counterbalancing that with enough new, or even doing much of anything interesting with the old. It's also not scary, not in the slightest. Hearing the animatronics speak full sentences with their silly voices ruins any kind of creepiness they could possibly have. Even if I am happy my bro Kellen got an opportunity like this. Also, I was invited to the premiere in LA, but unfortunately couldn't make it. Please invite me to the next one, I'm sorry. But it doesn't even feel like the movie cares very much about being scary at all. In fact, the film spends most of its time with this super drab tone. I think it assumes I would find this stuff serious and I'd be thrilled. But no, I was really disappointed by the jump scares with the marionette and Foxy, both just looking like someone threw them at the camera. I've been seeing two contradictory defenses of this argument here, both of which are dumb considering what movie they're talking about. The first being, well, of course it doesn't look like the games. Of course it's stiff, it's a robot, what do you expect when it's all practical? You want it to be CG or something? No, fucking asshole. Then when you say the movie is ridiculous and nothing makes sense, well, it's a campy fun horror movie about killer robots, what do you expect? You really wanted it to be realistic? I'm aware these are not the same people making this point, but it only drives home for me that a lot of people don't really know what these movies are going for. And I don't think Jason Blum knows either. This is the man who followed up the hit horror flick about a robot killer girl by turning her into an action hero who makes Marvel clips and goes through car chases. Then he releases that. I think his vision shifts depending on what he thinks will make the most money at the time. Doesn't always pan out. And with Five Nights at Freddy's, I think Blumhouse don't know whether these movies are spooky, nostalgic films preying on the depravities of child murder with a hint of spirituality, or silly movies where Megan Fox plays our main villain filled with YouTuber cameos and lines of dialogue pointing out how dumb the rules of these games work. Wait a second, you're telling me in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there's no door? Who designed this room? A stupid person? Also, that was not a joke, by the way. Toy Chica has more screen time in this movie than any other animatronic. I seriously wonder how those not familiar with the games feel when they go to see a movie called Five Nights at Freddy's, only to be met with Chica goes to the science fair. They try to play it both ways, and because of that, I don't think these movies will ever widely appeal to anyone other than diehard fans of the franchise who just want to see Freddy on the big screen, which, you know, valid and all. But I could only leave this film dreading the next one. Well, that is after I stopped laughing at the ridiculous Avengers-style ending where all the original animatronics come in and kill the toy ones, and our big happy ending is Mike telling Vanessa to fuck off. But Fnaf 3 is easily my favorite game in the series, visually at least, and I just don't have confidence in them replicating that. I'm already not that big on how Springtrap himself is looking if that after credit scene was anything to go by, although I think that's more so an unfortunate consequence of Scott Cawthon's scuffed texturing. The textures in the game not matching the actual fabric you would expect to be used on a costume like this, but alas, I guess we'll wait and see. This movie is projecting to make only half of what the first one did, but that's the joys of Blumhouse. This movie could do just okay and Jason Blum would still be making a hefty profit with his infamously cheap budgets. A third one's guaranteed. I just could not even pretend to be nice with Five Nights at Freddy's 2. With my initial review of the first one, I left hopeful that things would improve. But those dreams have since been shattered, and so I'm left with only one real option. Continue watching the following 4 or 5 of these they're gonna make every single year, except that they're all gonna be at best just fine, and wait 20 years until they reboot it again. Although, I don't know, the prospect of being 45 and watching the Five Nights at Freddy's movie seems scarier than anything actually in them.